Welcome to the DGD podcast. Another Georgia victory, and we're going to talk more about that. The Dogs pick up a commitment from a 2024 quarterback, and boy, what a chaotic week of college football. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. Juan, it seemed like you made it back safe from South Bend. Let's do this first. Let's talk about that. If you're not familiar with it, we talked about this chaotic week. Another thing, Juan and Stanford go up to South Bend, upset Notre Dame in South Bend. First off, tell us about that. I know you mentioned that was like a bucket list type thing. What was that like?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a bucket list thing. It's one of those things that if you have an opportunity, if you're a college football fan, just a college football fan, go to Oregon, which we had an opportunity to go to Oregon and go to Notre Dame. Just the atmosphere, the Notre Dame fans were awesome. The touchdown Jesus, the Golden Dome. It was an excellent time. Great atmosphere, and then of course us coming and pulling out that victory made it that much sweeter. I know at the beginning of the season there was a lot of people talking and chatting about why in the world is Notre Dame the number 5 team in the nation. They go and lose to Ohio State, then they go and lose to Marshall, and then lose to a 1-4 Stanford team. It just kind of tells you they are grossly overrated. However, the college football gods want Notre Dame to always be at the top, and unfortunately, that's not the case for them this year.
Good. I'm glad Stanford was able to assert some dominance there. It was an ugly game, 16-14, but hey, a win is a win. Obviously, Ashton, right, your son's on the team. For anybody curious why we started off the show talking about Notre Dame and Stanford, there's your logic and there's your reasoning, folks. Let's turn the page. Georgia, right? Georgia absolutely dominates. Second game in a row where you see Georgia absolutely assert their dominance and assert their will, and to a tune of a perfect score, by the way, 55-0, which, if I'm not mistaken, last Wednesday, someone called out 55-0. I'm not going to say no names, Robert Reynolds, but there was a perfect score prediction. Listen, I might not be good at my college football picks, damn it. I might be last, but I'm telling you right now, I know my damn Bulldogs. I'll take that. But listen, what were your thoughts? What were your initial thoughts over this win against Vanderbilt Saturday?
Well, just like I said, it's a statement game. Every team that Georgia plays, that Alabama plays, you can best believe it's going to be a statement game. And so they went above and beyond just to say, listen, no matter how well Alabama did against Vanderbilt, we're going to do it that much better. And man, it was an absolute beatdown.
Listen, I think you saw Georgia get back on track to what we should be, right? You take an instance where offensively, like I said, 55 points, 679 total yards of offense, and that's including backups, right? We'll talk about a couple things here. I think there were some key highlights for me in this game. Listen, Stetson Bennett breaks that touchdown streak, right? 3 games, I think, going on 3 games. Scores early, by the way, to passing touchdown. One of the things that I liked in that first drive, right? You made that statement, execute it, get down to the red zone, and you punch it in for 6 or for 7, not 3. But obviously, a passing touchdown is nice. Listen, Stetson almost threw for another 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, right? Play like that, and and I think you have the recipe for another playoff contending team, and especially when the defense played lights out like it did, limiting Vanderbilt to 150 total yards of offense. That's insane. It's insane, right? And that's without some of your better players. That's without Jalen Carter on the D line, right? So overall, it was a dominating game. AJ Swan was really, it was very surprising to me because I knew what he's capable of, seeing him in high school. Georgia contained that very well. Now, there were also a couple plays where, AJ had threw some passes. And listen, there were a couple I think that stick out. Ringo got lucky in that instance there. The guy dropped it. I think it was I forgot his name. Um, Guy drops it and then slightly overthrown in stride down the sideline. Right, that's a big gain if that connects. But outside of that, Georgia absolutely dominates this game from start to finish, never in question.
Yeah, agreed. And that was something too. I think I mentioned in the show. I thought Blaylock was going to do, going to be able to do something. And again, Carson Beck comes in there, as Patrick says, and he comes in there and does a great job. So we looked good overall. And then again, like I said, the biggest thing is hey, are we going to continue to make statement games? And we went out there and did that, and it was great to see.
Even like I said, even to the tune of the backups, right? Which I think probably the best highlight of the game is Eric Gilbert, right? It's not really documented, but most Georgia fans understand what he's going through in a sense of the path, right, that's been going on. Maybe not exactly understanding the intricate details, but there's something going on. Listen, he gets his first reception, gets his first touchdown, right? Extremely happy for that kid. Extremely happy for him, right? And it shows you how important he is and how much the team loves him when you sit there and you see everyone up 48-0, sitting there acting as if he scored the game winning touchdown. That to me screams culture, and that's a good one to have. That's an
Yeah,
extremely good one to have.
great to see him back, and then hopefully he can, just kind of get himself inserted into the offense. And it was funny because on our last podcast, Black Adonis actually asked where he was, and for all of us it was just kind of a mystery. And then of course he shows up. He's going to be vital when it comes down to winning the SEC East, then going into the SEC championship, and then making a run at that college playoff national championship. I think he's going to be a key piece that we're going to need to be successful.
Absolutely. Now, what if I told you that Brock Bowers wasn't the best tight end on the field Saturday? Would that surprise you, Juan?
I mean, it's no, not really. It's tight end you. It's all about who's going to get their chance, who's going to get their opportunity, and I think that each and every one of them step up and do their part.
Now, I do understand one thing, folks. I'm not saying Brock Bowers isn't a good player. Not, you know what I mean. What I'm saying statistically, Darnell Washington, Big O, had himself a game Saturday. And one of the things I think moving forward is something that Georgia needs to take advantage of and capitalize, getting him more reps because he is capitalizing on the opportunities, if you know what I mean. Like going out there and making play after play, right? Catch after catch. But obviously, everybody assumes that he's just this blocking tight end, and that's proven week after week that he's capable of doing both, right? And then you piece that in with guys like Brock Bowers on the outside too. It's a scary combination. I do want to talk a little bit about Carson Beck, though. Every week that we've been able to do this, he's getting more comfortable, and it's showing, right? Leads two touchdown drives or three. Well, yeah, two touchdown drives, and looked really good in those drives. I mean, impressive. All right, listen. There's no quarterback there's no quarterback controversy from this. Please stop with that nonsense. But my thought on this one is this: the fact that Todd Monken and the off and is really letting him operate the offense, right, in a functional offense, not just hand the ball off, hand the ball off, hand the ball off, like in years past. That is speaking volumes to where he is with this offense, and it's grooming him with game experience for next season. What are your thoughts on this offensive identity change where we're seeing the backup actually operate a functional offense? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it looks good. I mean, you want to, if at all possible, get the backups in as early as possible. So you want your second, third string guys getting reps against first string players on the other team, whether that be offense or whether that be defense. And now you're looking at a situation where you're not rebuilding, you're reloading. And take a look, just to sidebar, look at Alabama. Alabama doesn't have those receivers that were just blockbusters that were, that they've had in the past, because those guys don't have that experience. Look at Milroe. if Bryce Young doesn't play in that Tennessee game, I mean, Alabama gets absolutely slaughtered. So the fall off from that first and second string, Alabama's QB or receivers is really bad. Whereas Kirby seems to be making sure that we're not going to have that much of fall off. If not, we're going to be the same and then continue to get better. But this is the best way to do it.
Michael Dudley brings up a good point. He says he doesn't think more reps for Darnell, but look at him in the red zone like what Beck did with Gilbert. I slightly disagree, and the reason why I say that is this. He's a mismatch nightmare regardless on the field, where you are on the field. It doesn't matter, right? We've seen that. 34-yard reception right down the sideline, things like that. Now, to your point, Michael, what I do think is utilizing him in the red zone will be interesting because who's going to box him out? If you do the right route running or in the route tree, good luck trying to box this man out. Throw it up high and in front of somebody, run a little, hell, if anything, run a little hitch route, right? Get him, he's so big bodied. Who's going to get around him and go where he needs to be? There's so many different schematic advantages you have with somebody that size, right? But at the same time, if you look at what we did in the red zone, getting Kenny McIntosh in space is a recipe for success, right? You look at those kind of plays, and why not? You see what I mean? Like what we're doing so far, right? We're starting to see this red zone efficiency spiking back up, and it's because we're getting our best players in space and just going out there and just taking care of business. Ultimately, I think you're going to come to a point where we're going to have to do something different in the red zone, right? That may come against, I don't know, Florida, Kentucky, maybe we'll see. But for the most part, get your best players in space. I'm telling you right now, I would love to see a perfectly ran whip route when A.D. Mitchell comes back. It's going to happen at some point, probably within the 5-yard line, because within 5 yards, A.D. Mitchell, his separation ability is stupid. It's drastically increased from what you're going to see in anything else. I love his ability. I wish we would do that more, though. These whip routes, if they're run right, are deadly. Juan, what are your thoughts about the red zone and how, if you had any say, what would you do if you're in the red zone to optimize that efficiency?
Well, again, you got your big tight ends that you could throw the ball up to. I really like screens with the tight end. So Brock Bowers, they usually will get him and run a screen. I do love that. The little angle routes out of the backfield from the backs, getting them the ball. So just doing something a little bit different. And Georgia has the ability to do that. They don't always have to try to sit there and pound it and run the ball. I mean, they got different options that they could use. But even just, again, motioning them back out and doing like a little swing pass or a little screen to a back, I think are great ways to get those guys in space and let them go to work.
Yeah. If you watch, you know what I mean? Like if we saw that, right? The running back comes out of the backfield, right? Motions over and then runs out. No linebacker run immediately, and that's all you needed for him to sit there and get the space that he needed. It was a wrap. So, that's my thought, right? Like, whether you use Kenny McIntosh in space, screens, jet motion for lad, things like that, whatever, right? Whatever. As long as because you're going to need this after this bye week, right? Obviously, we're heading into a bye week. Moving down the stretch, you're going to have to execute and be super efficient in the red zone if you get there, right? You're going to have to do that. So, moving forward, however it is, you trust Todd Monken because this offense is on a level that we haven't seen in quite some time. It's going to be fine. Just keep executing like we have these past couple of weeks, and I feel like you're in good shape, I would assume.
Absolutely.
As we see Tanil saying that, did y'all hear that Tennessee is winning the Natty yet? We'll talk about that a little bit later because there is a chaotic week in college football, and that will be talked about, trust me. Juan, if you had to give a player of the game based off of their performance Saturday, who would you give it to?
I would give it, like I said, I'd give it to Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett looked solid. He made the right reads, did exactly what he needed to do, was just the leader, which is who I predicted, beforehand. it's you can't necessarily give one specific player, especially offensively, and the skill guys, because again, they do so much rotating that you almost have to stick with the guy that's basically distributing the ball.
I mean, you can about go anywhere with this type of performance, but for me, I'm going to give the game ball to Eric Gilbert. Overcoming whatever he's been overcoming is sticking it out, right? Keep going, coming back to the team. His journey to where he is now, the fact that he got the reception, got a touchdown on the same drive, statistically, it may be overshadowed, sure. But to me, that was a defining moment for him in his Georgia career. It's just that simple. Now, however, like I said, you can go a multitude of ways here, right? Carson Beck. Listen, Carson Beck came out and balled out like he was a starting quarterback, been doing it all game. It was insane. I loved it. That's the kind of stuff that Kirby talked about, right? It's not a quarterback controversy. It's having multiple quarterbacks that can put you in a position to win games. And we saw that on full display against Vanderbilt. It's just that simple. Yeah. Listen, Amarius Mims came in. I don't know if y'all saw that, but Amarius Mims was in right at right tackle, things like that. Dude was mauling folks, right? Listen, you can come in here and tell me all you want about, it's Vanderbilt, this and that. Listen, I don't care. Georgia did what they're supposed to do against an inferior opponent. Go out and purely dominate. It's just one of those things, right? Like, it's just beautiful to see. Obviously, Stetson Bennett. You could look at, Dejon Edwards again. You go, hey, speaking of Cash Jones, folks, Cash Jones, 54th point. Listen, you might not know him because we've got guys like Branson Robinson and Dejon and Kenny and Kendall. I'm just letting you know, folks, Cash Jones, here comes the money, right? But Pat says it's player of the game defense. Take your pick. Who would you say won if you had to choose defense here? Who would you give it out of anybody there?
I would say who I would not give it to, and that would be Ringo. I was not impressed with what he did. But outside of that, I mean, I think our interior line did a great job. Everybody else, and I would just give it just a complete defensive performance because Vanderbilt scored against most teams. I think even Alabama possibly, and they did not score against us. So I would give it to the whole group.
I like that pick because it's really a safe pick, and I like it. Give me Tyke Smith because Tyke Smith balled out, man. Like, yeah, if you had to be nitpicky on giving somebody a defensive game ball, think of the guy that forced the fumble, the lone turnover. Who was it? Tyke Smith. Tyke Smith, listen, he wasn't necessarily a starter, right? You had Javon Bullard starting throughout the season, but that ain't stopped him from going out and playing some damn good football because every week he gets on the field, he's looking better and better and better. And like I said, as a team, that's the stuff that you need, right? That's the recipe for getting back to the playoffs and doing and repeating what you're trying to do. It's that simple. We've got some chit chat talking about Tennessee here, which, like I said, that's a hot topic in around Dog Nation today. Kobe is in the chat. You can only play who you have scheduled. Look at Tennessee at the beginning of the year. People talking about we have the worst home schedule in years. Now it's looking like a number 1 versus a number 3. And I feel like that's perfectly spoken, Juan. Like you said, we alluded to it, right? You play Vanderbilt, right? People looking at it like, Tennessee's number 1. How so, right? How so? Listen, we're going to take a quick break. And on the flip side, we're going to talk about Georgia landing their guy for the 2024 class, Ryan Puglisi. So stick around. We'll catch this quick break. We'll come and talk more about that. Welcome back, folks. Obviously, listen, Georgia had an excellent day on the field, but it also had an excellent Sunday, I think it was, off the field. Ryan Puglisi, 3-star quarterback according to 24/7 out of Avon, Connecticut, commits to Georgia. 2024 quarterback And listen, people might be asking who he is, right? When you look at 24 cycle, right? You had a chance with Dylan Raiola, doesn't, falls through. He commits to Ohio State. You still got guys on the board like Julian Sayin and Jaden Davis. Why Ryan Puglisi? Well, I'll tell you this. Go watch his highlight tape and you'll understand. 6'3", 210, can throw the ball 70 plus, and pretty smart with the football, safe with the football. Juan, I don't know how much research you've dove into this quarterback commit here, but just in general, if you want to elaborate more, go for it. But from a recruiting standpoint, anytime you get a quarterback in your recruiting class, it's in my opinion one of the most pivotal positions for a recruiting class because it can help build that recruiting class. What are your thoughts on the commitment, and where do you see that going from here?
I don't. I'll be honest with you. I don't know very much about him. But historically, Georgia's done a great job as far as doing recruiting when it actually comes to quarterbacks. I mean, you obviously saw what Carson Batman could do, and then again, Monken is looking for his guy. He has a certain type, he has a certain whatever he's looking for, and obviously this guy is one to fill it. And I'm looking excited to go look at his tape to see what he does. Is he going to be that gritty, heady guy that's not necessarily going to be your gunslinger? Because you can throw it 70 plus, but are you a gunslinger, or are you smart with the football? So I'm excited to actually go and just take a look at this pick and then see what we ended up getting.
It's funny to me because outside of the Georgia space, folks are always already trying to bash Georgia for, picked up a 3-star, this and that. Listen, this is why rankings don't matter, folks. 3-star quarterback, right? 3-star quarterback. When you have offers from places like Alabama and Georgia, and I mean they offered on the spot. He came in over the summer, went to Alabama, went to Georgia. They offered on the spot, folks. That tells you more that, listen, he's not a 3-star quarterback. You have to trust the evaluation process, right? Everybody wants to bash Georgia's quarterback evaluation skills. Come at me with that. Stop playing, right? Everybody talks about these 4 and 5 stars that Georgia's missing on. And I'm looking at it like we just took a 2-star Staquavius and just won a natty with him, right? If Todd Monken and Buster Faulkner and Kirby raved about to that point where they offered on the spot and then they pushed, listen, when you have a 5-star quarterback, 2 5-stars for that matter, Jaden Davis and Julian Sayin, and both of them get pushed down after a workout at a camp, trust the process. Trust it. They love what they saw. They made him the priority. He's now a dog. I'm telling you right now, folks, this is a 3-star that will be a 4-star, if not fringe top 100 pick to maybe even 5-star. We're calling it here. The next rankings bump for 2024, watch it. I want to say he's 359th overall right now. Watch that number. We'll come back to this and we'll see where he stands. Just the next update. Just watch. As we see, Mr. Colin Tyrone is in the building saying, "What's up, Colin?" But no, listen, I think you look at the 24 cycle, right? I think it's a good thing to have a quarterback early because you look at guys like Mike Matthews. Mike Matthews, receiver, big time receiver in Georgia, right? He can push for that. Right? He's going to start recruiting these guys. I think what I saw from his willingness to want to be here, he wanted to be here. Add that to the fact that the guys loved him, right? The staff loves him. It's kind of one of those fits, right? As Mike Dudley brings up, Staquavius was a 3-star. There you go, folks. Listen, if you have to look at the success that Kirby and company have had with 3-stars, folks. There's been several 3-stars, for that matter, that have come to Georgia and left as All-Americans, first-round draft picks, and even succeeding very well in the NFL. Just one recently was Jordan Davis, folks. 3-star coming out. Now, obviously, different position. I get it. But I'm just saying the development is here. Um, Mike Dudley says that KJ Bolden is going to be playing wide receiver if he goes to Georgia. I think that might be a take to listen to. I think he can play about anywhere. One, I mean, he's a Buford guy. I mean, what? Obviously, we're not going to make any like bold predictions here. I mean, I guess it is a prediction. I think you could put him at safety, but he can play anywhere, I would assume. What are your thoughts on the KJ Bolden situation, I guess, since this got brought up?
Yeah, he is a top-rated athlete, but he's more going to be defensive than he is offensive. He can play receiver. However, he's not going to be your typical receiver. Doesn't necessarily have the hands to be that. Has a couple of drops here and there, but it just depends. Like now, if he goes and focuses strictly on being a receiver, yeah, he could do that. But right now, they have him slated as a defensive guy. But unbelievable athlete, probably one of the top athletes. I mean, they had a big time game this past Friday against Caleb Downs and who's going to Alabama, and you have Justice Haynes. I mean, it was an absolute just drag out knockout fight. Over 10,000 people at that game.
That was insane. There was pictures of that, and I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Now that game was ridiculous. It seemed like obviously even Kirby made the appearance with the Kirby copter coming in. Obviously, we looked at some 23 guys like you just listed there, but you also got Edric Houston and 2024 kids, right? It's just insane. It's just insane how much talent was on that field Friday. As Kobe brings up this 3-star, listen, Mac Jones was a 3-star quarterback, folks. So if anybody outside of that want to come at us with that, Mac Jones, for your beloved Bama, if you're listening trying to talk shit, he was a 3-star, right? So keep that in mind, man. Stars ain't everything. We'll continue to say that. We're going to do that. But nonetheless, right? Obviously, Georgia gets to commit. Moving forward, I think he's going to be one of the key pieces. But I'm curious to see, Juan, if Georgia goes for 2 quarterbacks in the 24 cycle. If you had to make a prediction today, right? We're not gonna judge this as saying, oh, we will or we won't. Do you think Georgia goes for 2 quarterbacks in the 24 cycle?
No, I think they stick with one. I think that they kind of have their eye on a kid. His name is Julian Lewis, who is he's at Charlton.
Juju.
Yep, Juju.
Kid's stupid good.
Yeah,
stupid good.
He's really, really good. And so I just think that they'll hold off right now, maybe just take one and then just kind of wait around to see if they can pick him up.
I'm curious because depending on how the quarterback room shakes out, right, depending on how things go, you could see either a portal addition or a very hard push to get 2 quarterbacks. So, listen, I think the postseason, right, seeing how the quarterback room shakes out, right, if people stay, I feel confident saying you go for 1 and 24 and be done with it. If something happens, and say, for instance, if one leaves or whatever, and at that point, then you sit there looking the portal, but nothing comes up. Then you're starting to scratch your head. It's like, do we take 2? We'll talk more about this as the off season progresses, if you want to call it that, right? After the season, I guess you could say.
I think they're done with the whole portal quarterbacks. I mean, you get the guy from Wake Forest that comes in and he fizzles out. You get JT Daniels, he comes in and he doesn't. I just think that they like their guys that are just that they've recruited and they are building with them, building that process. And I think that that's where Georgia's going to go. And then again, you look at last year, they didn't take very much I don't think they took anything from the portal last year. So, which all that says is, hey, you know what? We believe in who we have. We believe in the guys that we recruit. And, we're going to start something great here. And, that's basically what's happening.
I look at it this way, Juan, like you said, like going through the portal for quarterback in recent memory we have struggled with that. One of the things that I think, if I'm looking at it this way, Monken has his system quarterbacks, if you will. Stetson fits this, he's been here, he understands Todd Monken's offense. Carson Beck is the same, right? I think you're starting to see that slowly. The more that Carson Beck plays, you really start to understand like what he's capable of, and you see the things that a lot of people may not pay attention to. A lot of people might just focus on the passing. But if you really took a look and deep dove or dive deep into the performance for Carson Beck Saturday, it's the small things like keeping your head downfield, moving up in the pocket, taking off and running. Arguably, that was his best play, the 13-yard run. Like I said, a lot of the small things, when it comes time next year, if he is the guy, that right there, those intangibles are going to be paying dividends beyond your imagination, because you need a quarterback to sit there, keep your eyes downfield, make reads, see that nothing's there, take off, right? He's got the athleticism, right? But those small things for me shows, to me at least, the development of Carson Beck. And I think like I said, you're grooming him to be the guy next year. With that being said, I'm gonna make the take right now. I think there's a good shot that you don't see much of a regression at all next year.
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
now obviously we got to see if we can get him on the field, more this season. Right, when you look at you have the bye week, you have then you go to then you go and you play Florida. Right, that might be a game, if we take care of business like I think we should. You might see Carson back going there. And listen, what better way than to put it on Florida than giving them a North Florida kid to score a touchdown on them? I'm just saying, right? You can't write it up. You can't write it up any better.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah, you're right.
it might be the bye week, but my Gator hater lives on. It will always be 2 weeks of Gator hater for right now. So anytime I can shit on Florida, we're going to do that. Mike Dudley asked this. He said, the real question is, Georgia or UGA is okay with just their quarterbacks. You have to be careful with that. I think that's a slippery slope in terms of quarterbacks, because of the volatility of the position. When you have 4-star, 5-star athletes at your quarterback position, keep them happy, right? Keep them happy. How do you do that, right? I think what we're seeing is, Carson Beck is getting in playing time and doing this right here. And obviously, I think that keeps him around. For me, Mike D says that BVG will leave after the season. That's his prediction. I'm not going to go about that. I don't want to put anybody in the portal by any means. But I think you have to just see how this quarterback room plays out, honestly. Pat, we are most certainly Gator hating today. We always do it anyway. So anytime anybody wants to Gator hate, you know how it is. We're going to do this. We just do that. We'll go there. Juan, let's transition though. We talked about it at the beginning, right? Stanford upsetting Notre Dame, which kind of to me is like one point of the many for this past weekend in college football. Obviously, the talk of the town, Tennessee taking down Alabama, but you've also got Utah taking down USC. You look at, right, Oklahoma beating Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay, just a bunch of different things.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So, I love listening to you talk about these, because these are all games that I picked to be winners, and so
I'm not listening. College football picks might be to the bottom of the 4, but I'm just letting you know right now, I got the perfect prediction for Georgia. That's all I need. That's all I need. That's all I need.
Right.
But not. Pat, he's got your back. All right. I find that offensive.
My man.
But no. So to me though, Juan, right? Let's start this, because every Georgia fan is doing this. Tennessee takes down Alabama, but during the game, it was a mix between people wanting Tennessee to win and people wanting Bama to win. I find it hard for me to believe a Georgia fan should want either one to win. But at the same time, if I had to pick, give me Bama to win. And the reason why I think this is because if they win, now you have to start looking at the recruiting momentum, and we go up against them every year like that, right? We want to run the East, and what better way to do it than having everybody else in the East down, hold them down, right? Listen, I heard you, Pat. He picked Tennessee. Good call. Good call.
Yeah, I'm a little bit opposite of you. Give me Tennessee to win that game, because honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with Bama when they play Ole Miss. They still got to play Mississippi State. So by the time if they get to the SEC championship, they're gonna maybe have a loss, maybe 2 losses, who knows? But to have Tennessee come into Georgia, and that's going to be the biggest, not only just game, that 1 versus 3, but then you're going to have all these recruits, everybody that's going to come in. I think right there, it's going to be one of those things that, man, the East is now back. We're surpassed Alabama. The Tennessees and Georgias are now surpassed. This is where it's going to be. It's going to be insane. If you have a ticket to go to see that game, it's going to be out of this world. And what better way to and it's for the East. I mean, this is going to be for the East, and everybody's high on Tennessee, and Tennessee's high on Tennessee, and then guess what? They come into Georgia and get humbled. That's going to be awesome.
See, it's K2G hops in, Pokey hops in. He's on your side too. Listen, for me, I look at it this way. When I watched that game Saturday, right? Obviously, I was watching the Georgia game first. That's most important. I watched it and I just sat back and watched. It's that perfect meme, right? It's that perfect meme where you got 2 people beating the shit out of each other, and we're just sitting back there with our camera, right? Like that's how I felt, right? That's how I felt because Saturday, if what we see transpires in Athens, ain't no way Georgia's going to drop 17 penalties. Ain't no way we're giving up 52. They didn't make any adjustments. There was no defense, it felt like, either side. Either side. I think Georgia's going to handle business a lot differently, right? A lot differently. I think Nick Saban's mentioned that the environment didn't really play a part in that game. I call bullshit on that. Because if I want to say I heard a stat saying that they gave basically off penalties was 130 yards of penalties.
Yeah.
They only ran the ball for like 120 something.
Yeah,
so like I said, I call BS on
that. For those of us that have been to Tennessee, it is insane. And there is no hearing. You can very easily get disoriented, discombobulated. It's insane. So for him to say that did not play a part is absolutely false.
We're both on board with that, right? I think that's simple. Listen, but when we look at this game in 3 weeks, we're not going to Knoxville, right? We're not going to Knoxville. They're coming into. Listen, I'm telling you right now, 2019 Notre Dame ain't gonna have shit on this in 3 weeks if everything holds the course, right?
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. Georgia fans, focus on me. Do not overlook Florida. Just because they're asked, don't overlook them. Simple as that, folks. 2 weeks, we go to Jacksonville and we play Florida before Tennessee comes to town. Do not, and I repeat, do not overlook Florida. Just don't.
I don't think we're going to overlook Florida. And again, just like the last couple of games, that's going to be a statement game. And
I think I'm 100% on board with that.
It was 38-33, and obviously Tennessee has no defense. We're going to be able to run up and down the field, but we have an unbelievable defense and all of that, hype and everything that Tennessee has. I think, for the first couple of drives, until we get settled, just like last year, that's exactly what happened last year. So, I think that we're going to come out there again. It's going to be a statement game. Every game from here on out that you have common opponents, it's going to be a statement game.
I'm 100% on board with that. Mike brings me a good point. He said, don't overlook this bye week, a major bye week. Listen, he's not wrong. And what he means by that is it came at the perfect time. Perfect time, right? Heading into the bye week, right? Obviously, we're on a bye this week. So this Wednesday, it's going to be a little bit different. But what we're saying is stay healthy, right? Keep the standard. I'm telling you right now, practice is going to be a bitch for anybody not number 1 on the depth chart. I just see that because I think your ones are going to you're going to lick your wounds, right? Get healthy. Keep those guys healthy. But your practice squad guys, your 2s, your 3s, I feel like you're going to see those guys go through hell, really. I just think that's I guess my good question for Juan here, when you were playing, how did you handle the bye week? It's probably a little bit different because Kirby's the head coach, but
we just had a bad situation when at Georgia we ran off 9 straight before we even had a bye week, so we did not have the luxury of having a bye week before the Florida game, and that's one of the things that Steve Spurrier implemented when he was at Florida is that we're going to have a bye week before Georgia. Well, we played 9 games in a row. And then we had a bye week after we played Florida. Then we'd have a bye week. We played Auburn. Then we'd have a bye week, and then we would play Georgia Tech, which that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to have your team to play 9 games in a row. So now the way that Kirby has it, and just like Michael said, this is a very important bye week. For them to go and prepare. They've gone through the first part of their schedule. Now they're going through this back half to really make some statements, and that's what they're doing is they're making statements.
I mean, I think you look at it this way too, right? Like you look at how can I explain this? You take a look at getting the right pieces back, right? Jalen Carter has been out the last couple of games. A.D. Mitchell hasn't really played that much. Yeah, if he has, it's been very, very minimal reps, maybe 1 or 2 if that, and it wasn't really doing much. Getting those 2 pieces back, right? Getting this week to heal and not have to worry about going out and playing anybody. I think, like I said, it's the perfect timing for Georgia to have a bye week because you go into the Florida game, Kirby will find a way to motivate these guys. Let's be honest. He'll find a way to keep these. He's a Gator hater just like us. Juan, you know this. Go down there, take care of business. He's going to have these guys laser focused, I think. Take the week to mentally reset and literally grasp a laser focus because you're going to need it. You're going to need it looking into the back half of the remaining part of our schedule. You have to. Because there, in my opinion, outside of Georgia Tech, there's really not an truly easy game. What it looks like, I think you might see it make it look easy. But anytime you play Florida, it's never going to be truly easy. You look at, obviously, Tennessee coming into town. We saw what we're just talking about. You look at Mississippi State. The Cowbells are ridiculous, right? Mississippi State just got beat by Kentucky, but nonetheless, it's still a really good opponent. And then also you look at going to Kentucky, right? We'll see how things play out, but those 4 games will really make and tell you what you're made of, right? If you look at it outside of Oregon, a lot of people wanted to say we didn't really play nobody, which obviously you play who you play. Ask anybody in the ACC or Big Ten about that, but that's neither here nor there. You look at what we have on the backside of this bye week, and that's all you need to see. It's that simple. Listen, we talk about Florida. Laugh and point at the scoreboard. Exactly right, Pat. Mike Dudley just brought out this. On3 just, I guess, did updated rankings or whatever. Puglisi in the top 40, folks, is what they had on 3. Top 40. Now, Mike, confirm for me if that's overall. I would have to assume that's the case. Like I said, kid's not a 3-star, folks. I'm just going to leave that there. Juan, I want to ask you one more thing, right? So, what was a bye week like for you? I know you talked about the timing of the bye week, but from a game plan perspective, from all these different facets, what was the bye week like for you when you played?
You have Monday off. You practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You have that Friday off. And just to get some guys healed up, get some guys rest. We do more walkthroughs than we actually do physical practice, so just kind of giving your body a rest. And then that next week is when you just kind of start your game plan for your next common opponent. But it was always nice to have a bye week because, again, the physicality of playing in the SEC is not easy. So, just got some guys some time to get back, to heal, and just give your body a rest.
I would assume that's got to be the case. Like I said, especially the guys that, probably playing slightly injured, right? Or waiting to come back, right? I think that's a crucial time for them to heal. I think you need for that to happen. But at the same time, I think Kirby Smart's handled business the right way since he's got here, right? We haven't had issues coming out of the bye week, right? We've handled business against Florida, right? Now, the one year, I think, was it 2020 or 2019 or 2021 when all those guys coming out of Kentucky was hurt.
Yeah.
You remember when we had like 6 starters go down for the injury?
Yep.
Like outside of that, which really was out of his control, but like you haven't really had any issues coming, like coming out of the bye weeks. Listen, I think we talk about healthy dogs, right? I think we make sure guys stay on good behavior. Athens Clark County seems to be the arch nemesis to the Georgia Bulldogs football program. Listen, you can give me Florida, you can give me Tennessee, I don't care, but Athens Clark County seems to be the biggest thorn in the side of the football team. So make sure these guys stay out of trouble, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I think you have to do that. I would assume you probably these guys get a chance to go back home if possible too. Um, you know, I think that's good too. I think like getting back home and like I said, make sure they're doing the right things. But like I said, I think it ultimately boils down to this mental reset and regathering the focus for the back half of the season. Um, I think we've talked about, obviously we talked about Tennessee and Bama. Um, what about this LSU Florida game? I guess we'll do a very early preview. We'll do this more officially come time. But LSU pretty much putting a whooping on Florida in the swamp.
Yeah.
And LSU's been my Debbie Downer for me, right? I thought they had the makings to do what they needed to do, and that so far has not been the case. Which surprisingly, they're still up in like I want to say like third or fourth in the SEC because it's all like conjoined right there.
Yeah.
But I guess neither here nor there. What were your thoughts on Florida? Because Florida's on a bye week too. You know, coming off of that kind of loss where it was demoralizing, right? They were down 3 scores and came back to within 7, I think it was, before LSU just put it down, right? If you're coming off of a loss, right? What is the mentality coming off of a win versus coming off of a loss into a bye week? I'm assuming you probably have to literally, regardless whether you win or lose, clear the mental palate, and get ready for the remaining games. Is it harder? Like, is it harder to come out of a bye week mentally prepared and with a new,
Yeah, this is a different situation, I believe. So, when I was there, we always lost, my entire time we lost to Florida. Then we would come in and then have to play Auburn, who, twice beat Florida. So we kind of, you're demoralized going into your bye week, coming out of that bye week, knowing that you're going to have to play an Auburn, who then you go and lose, and then you go into another bye week. So that's another week of being demoralized. But then we would get to finish it up with Georgia Tech, which, you kind of end off on a high note. But I really think that this past week was a case of Florida just overlooking LSU. I mean, LSU this season they have not been good. They've been struggling. And I just want to say that, Florida was I think they were caught looking ahead, hoping that they were just going to go ahead and, take this game easily, get into the bye week, and then try to challenge Georgia. And then now all hopes are lost. I mean, if we're being honest, you can't even get past an LSU team that's not very good. You're going to go into a bye week, and then you're going to have to come out and face a focused Georgia Bulldog team. It's if you're not already demoralized, coming up into that game is going to be really, really tough for you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. I don't necessarily think they really overlooked them though, Juan. Like, Jaden Daniels just had a damn good game.
Yeah.
Like, they just handled business. Like, when you look at the start of the game, right, that with the bomb to Shorter, I think it was, for a touchdown, right? They were up 14-7, and they just let it go.
Yeah.
I don't even necessarily know if that's overlooking LSU. I just wonder if they got beat.
Yeah.
I just think they got beat.
Good chance, yeah.
So, I mean, neither here nor, like, regardless if they overlooked them or they just got beat, though, right? When you're coming to Jacksonville, right, after a bye week, and like you said, coming to face a focused Georgia team, if Georgia comes in, I think Kirby could probably take a look at this, right, and manipulate it somehow to say, listen, we had this experience against Missouri, we had it against Kent State. We can't come out and play slow. We can't come out and overlook our opponent. With the extra bye week, I'm just saying, I think you're going to see a completely different Georgia team. We got into a groove these past couple games against Auburn and against Vanderbilt. But I would expect, coming out of this bye week, to see more of those two and the Oregon game than I would, and South Carolina for that matter, than what we saw coming out slow. I don't think we come out slow because I think Kirby's going to tell them we can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
We
They're
can't.
going to take care of business early, get everybody in early, put the game away early, because that next weekend is going to be a big weekend. So go ahead and take care of business early. Go ahead and make a statement. Beat them down, make them quit, and then then start to mentally get prepared. For that.
I mean, like my thing is like you don't want to look around the NCAA right now either if you're Georgia because of so much chaos going on. I mean, you can look around it and say that any team can be beat. That's one thing. But what you don't want to look at is looking at the SEC West rankings. Don't get too far ahead. Don't get too far ahead. Well, Bama lost, so we might not even see them. Don't even start to think about that. Don't think about that because you've got an opponent in 3 weeks that could very well knock you off, and you'll be sitting your ass on the couch watching the SEC championship game if you ain't careful.
Yep.
Keyword being, take care of business from here on out. Do what you're doing, and welcome to Atlanta. It's that simple. Welcome to Atlanta. It's just that simple. Juan, I think that'll wrap this thing up for today, man. Were there any final takeaways we want to bring up?
No, again, like I said, every game here is going to be statement games for Georgia. So we're just, excited to see what they're going to do.
Listen, you come off of a 55-0 win. You about played a perfect game, right? I said about. Defensively, holding the team to 150 total yards of offense, impressive. Offense. Consistency, right? I think we had one field goal. I don't remember. I think we punted one time. I think. Mm-hmm. Game like that right there. If you translate that in the remaining games, you're going to go, like we said in the preseason, undefeated regular season. We'll see somebody in Atlanta, but the main focus here, don't look ahead. Just focus on the day and keep it going. Listen. One last call here for dog fans. These ticket prices are stupid high, right? It's okay. I understand the assignment, okay? Do not, and I repeat, do not give your damn ticket away. Don't sell it to a damn Vol fan. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't do it. They gonna come at you looking like the devil in disguise, folks. I got this. I'll give you the mortgage. Now don't do it. You can't give in. You cannot give in.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it on that note. I want to make sure people understand this. Listen, we're talking about week right now, but these ticket prices, folks, we need Georgia. We need Sanford Stadium packed the fuck out. It's that simple. Pack it out. Don't sell your damn ticket to a Vol fan. What kind of dog fan would do that? Don't do it. Just don't do it. Not Pat. I want full seats, but know who you selling tickets to, man. Pat says he would rather see empty seats than orange seats. Nah. Sell them tickets, but sell them properly. Right? Yeah. Make sure you sell them the right way. Sell them to somebody you know if that's. You're trying to sell it. If you're listening to this or watching this and you don't know, hit me up. Hit up the DG podcast socials. I'll tell you right now, we'll get you in contact with somebody that can get those tickets to a dog fan, not a Vol fan. Just gonna leave that there. Right? We're gonna wrap the show on that. Juan, you ready for Wednesday already, man? It's gonna be a wild week. It's gonna be a wild week. It's gonna be a wild one. With that being said, make sure to like, follow, subscribe. If you listen on podcast, leave a review, like and follow as well. Follow us on the socials. At the DGD podcast. You can also find Juan Daniels there too. Listen, he's goated, folks. He's goated. General Juan, right? General Juan.
Yes, sir.
It's that simple. It's not General Sal anymore. It's General Juan. But with that being said, have a great day. Listen, we got the bye week, folks. We're going to be talking a little bit about that Wednesday. Let's give you a little preview, a little taste of it. With that being said, have a great day. Catch you on the next time. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.